Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and today we are with the famous actor from the 1950s, Edward G. Robinson. No, I'm just kidding. We're with Eddie Robinson. Eddie Robinson's a 32-year-old guitarist living in Nashville. He's touring with Warner Brothers artist Frankie Ballard, who's actually Eddie's longtime friend from a small town in Michigan where they grew up, and we'll talk about that. He started studying at 5 years old in Battle Creek, Michigan, started playing music, rather. Early on, he spent time taking lessons, studying different instruments, and playing guitar at church. He started doing actual gigs around age 13 with a local classic rock band. I can't believe you wasted 8 years till you had to get on a gig. God, what a slouch. Played regional bands and rock and blues shows in high school and into college, and he also worked in music theater, which is really cool. He fronted a blues trio in Michigan for a few years while working on projects with Frankie and other local artists. He started a corporate job in Detroit, took a summer off, and never went back as things got more serious with Frankie and his band. That's it. That's righteous, man. Good for you. Frankie got a publishing and record deal, and they all relocated to Nashville and started touring almost immediately. That's like really awesome story, man. It
was cool, man. It is a fun tale. I like telling it.
Well, good. You're going to tell it in a minute right now. He's also toured with some really cool artists: Bob Seger, Taylor Swift, Florida Georgia Line, Darius Rucker, and their first tour ever they did with Uncle Kracker. We'll talk about that. Nashville life has consisted of really busy touring schedule in America and Europe, late-night honky-tonk gigs, recording, collecting gear, and if any other free time presents itself, he's in his shop working on cars and restoring vintage motorcycles. Eddie Robinson, man, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show, dude.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Of course, man. So did you actually start playing guitar at age 5?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I did guitar and piano. We found this old guitar at a flea market. It was like a $10 thing, tiny acoustic, and my older sister actually split it with me. So we each threw in $5. I think I made mine from like doing some yard work or something like that, whatever I could do at age 5. But yeah, we grabbed that thing, and my mom made the deal. She's like, all right, we're going to get this, but you need to take lessons, and we're going to study it and read music and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm 5. Sounds good. Like,
that's awesome, man. I really, what I dig the most is that your parents made you guys buy it.
Yeah, right.
No, because let me tell you, nobody. I guarantee your parents were now maybe it was different in Battle Creek, Michigan, but like. I've raised 3 kids, man, and I'm the only dad that did crap like that, and you had skin in the game, and your sister had skin in the game, so it was like, yeah, we appreciate it. And if they hadn't have done that, if they'd have then you might not have gone and taken lessons.
Yeah, I could have just sit in the closet, It's like, that was a lot of money for me back then.
Yeah, your whole life might be different now from that one decision, so that's really cool, I think. Hey, I'm going to turn off the video because it's sucking up bandwidth, and you're getting delayed.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so how did you meet Frankie? I mean, I think this is like such a cool. Tell the whole story. Tell the world, Eddie. Okay, we want to know because you're playing with a guy you grew up with. That's like I have not heard that yet. That's pretty cool.
So we grew up in Battle Creek, Michigan, a fairly small town. Frankie's family, my family, we all went to the same church every Sunday. And so he'd always been like a person I was aware of. Like we kind of knew who each other was and all that. And we didn't get close until we were older. So we went to separate schools. I switched high schools, and we were at the same high school for a few years. And same thing. We both just kind of knew each other, but we didn't really hang out. He was doing a lot of sports, and I was doing a lot of like high school band stuff and playing other gigs and things like that. And then we showed up at the same blues jam finally at one point and discovered that we both had this like mutual love and respect for blues and classic rock, and we wanted to see what Zeppelin songs each other knew and what Skynyrd songs we could jam to and things like that.
How old were you at this? What was he playing? He was playing like rhythm guitar.
The other day, man, I think I was like 14 or 15, and that would have made him about 17, if I remember right.
And you played, I'm assuming, like lead, and what did he play?
He was playing a Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat through, God, what was it? Through, I think it was like a PV Tweed. What are those classic Tweed amps that they made?
Dude, that's an amazing that you. I meant, like, what was he playing? Like, was he playing rhythm guitar, or was he a lead guy like you, or?
He was rhythm. Basically, it was a group of older guys in town that just hosted these blues jams every week, and they would do all this. I mean, you could hear Mustang Sally 5 times a night if you wanted to. The standards were coming out, and it was simple enough music to where we could go up there and not really know what we were doing, and just all right, we're in A, so play a solo in A, and that'd be it, And but yeah, he was throwing some leads in there, and started singing a little bit more as the years went on, doing that stuff. And but yeah, he had some cool chops, and we both kind of got a respect for each other as players. Of like, yeah, man, this guy's pretty good, and it's like I like playing with him, so we always tried to meet up as much as we could.
Did you ever think, like, I'm sure in your wildest dreams you never thought, because like when you're a young kid, you don't really think about the future anyway, but you probably never thought, hey, we'll be playing together professionally in Nashville, all over the world. Yeah,
it's wild, man. And we always wanted to take over the world, but we didn't really know what the setup was going to be. Like we had different bands. Like we had a blues band that Frankie played drums in, and I played guitar, and our other buddies sang, and he played drums for me a few times where I was fronting the band, and I never really felt like a good front man. I never wanted to be like the lead singer. I just kind of wanted to play guitar. Like that's what made me the happiest. So it just kind of, through a bunch of trial and error, really, it just kind of came down to like, man, Frankie's kind of the best at this. Like we should focus on this, So
he started playing, being the front man.
Yeah. He stepped it up and got his vocal chops stronger and stronger as time went on, and it was cool. And then before we knew it, he had a thing. He was like a guitar slinger vocalist and had a cool look to him. And it's like, all right, this is working, man. And we're playing some shows and getting busy, and people are coming out. And that's when it kind of became apparent that it's like, yeah, this is a cool thing to get into. So
awesome. So you guys are playing blues rock, and I'm sure, like, I don't know Frankie's act, but I'm assuming it's more country and pop.
Yeah, a little bit. It's country and pop, and but the bones of it really go back to a lot of that old stuff, and it's just like he puts a lot of soul and like Motown and kind of some Elvis vibe into it. It's a good mix of stuff that he really, really loves. And obviously, like, the stuff that goes on radio is going to be like a little bit more commercial and like radio friendly. But at our live show, it's a little bit different, and you get more of the sense of, okay, well, this is like a 4-piece band. There's no tracks, there's no in-ear monitors or anything like that. We're just kind of up there, just rocking and jamming out, and the band is as tight as we can possibly get it. And we take the songs to just a next level. Not like, we don't play them exactly like the record. We play them like a 4-piece band would play it. And it's like, all right, I'm going to try this part or try this vocal part and see what happens. And so there's a lot of freedom in it, which is really cool.
You're the only guitar player in the band, right?
No, Frankie plays.
Oh, okay. Frankie's playing too. Okay.
Sometimes he'll drop his guitar down and just sing, but yeah, he plays a lot of the set. There's been times where I've done all the guitar and he's only played 1 or 2.
Okay, so I guess my question is there pressure when you're the solo guitar player, and you're traveling all over the world, and I know that's what you do, but do you feel extra pressure when you're the only guy that's carrying the band guitar-wise?
Oh, yeah, I do. It's not like a bad pressure. It's just,
no,
we want to make the most, the biggest sound with the tools we have. So I want to cover as many parts as I can, and I want it to be, full and intentional, and just just big, I guess. And that's I think what I feel the most pressure with. Like it's really easy to be the only guitar player and be like just overwhelmed with, oh, I gotta cover this part and sing this part and then play a slide solo while trying to keep like a good rhythm and a groove with the rest of the band. But I don't know, it's easy to get in your head about that stuff too, but really you can, you're making the show at that point. So whatever you want to play, like that's what it's going to be. And you don't have to overdo it. You can still keep it simple and it'll sound good,
Yeah, so it sounds like you've had enough experience doing this that it's really not. I mean, you know exactly what to do. It's not something that stresses you out. Because like I'm not a professional player. I'm just a guy who plays in his bedroom. I'm thinking about like, wow, that's a lot of responsibility. But you do this obviously for a living, so you're my viewpoint is obviously not your viewpoint. You're a lot more together about this.
I get stressed about other stuff, man. It won't even be the parts. It'll be like, man, my guitar sounds bright right now, or like, what's going on? Like, is my reverb too much right now? Like, I get into those details.
Sure.
And they'll stress me out more than what I'm actually playing. Then I'd be like, oh yeah, I played, everything was fine, but man, like, there's just one part where I didn't hit my tremolo on at the right time, and it was weird. Like, that stuff will wear on me more than what I'm actually playing. It's pretty funny.
Totally got you. You've opened up and played with some pretty established acts like Bob Seger, Florida Georgia Line. Have you learned anything from observing or watching them or being around those guys?
Oh yeah, definitely. The first, like Bob Seger, we did that tour. I think it was like 6 years ago. It kind of came out of nowhere. We had a new booking agent, and he called us. We were in an airport and was like, "Hey, I got you some shows with Bob Seger. You're going to do 3 shows, and if they like you guys, you'll do more." And we're like, "Oh, wow, that's like
it's pretty cool,
incredible." Like, Michigan guys, like Bob Seger is the man. I mean, it's like we grew up listening to that stuff, so we jumped on there, and that was our first experience with like a rock legend, and we didn't really know what to expect, like how the rules or what it was going to be like when we were there, if we were going to get any time to do stuff. And we got there, and his whole camp was just like the nicest people and very accommodating and just making sure we were comfortable. And they treated us like they would treat any other giant band that's ever toured with them.
That's really cool.
We were just like really green and, getting into the big arena shows and trying to figure all that stuff out. We had like a rental van and a trailer and all that, so we're getting into it. But trying to think what I learned from those guys was just I don't know. I saw them having so much fun on stage every night, and I saw Bob just like as happy as anyone could possibly be. Like, he wanted to do it every night. He would go out there and just give it like everything he possibly had. Like, he would leave on that stage, and it was so cool to see somebody do that, especially at his age at that time. Like, he'd been doing this so long, and probably doesn't even need to tour anymore. He can hang out at home. He's made plenty of money over the years. But
oh yeah,
but yeah, it was incredible, man. It was really like inspirational, and it made us feel like we were doing something legitimate to even be in the same building as that guy. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I've interviewed guys that play with Bob, and you said one thing. You said that it's amazing how passionate he is, and that's what, like, do you know Moose Brown? I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And he told me, he goes, I've never played with somebody. I mean, here he is. He's just exactly what you said. He's been doing this, probably 50 years, and he the amount of passion that he has to do this, he just loves. And the audience vibes on that, because he said he's never been in a more receptive, crowd.
Yeah.
Was that intimidating playing in that big of an audience? Because I'm assuming you played larger.
We'd done that kind of audience just with random tours and stuff. So I don't know. It wasn't too intimidating. I didn't really know how they were going to react to us, because we were kind of like a new country band from Nashville, and we're playing with this Midwest rock and roller. So I didn't really know if the crowd was going to hate us or love us. And as far as I know, like it went over pretty well. Like we ended up touring for about a year and a half together, and a lot of shows like all over the country, like East Coast to West Coast. And Bob loved having us there, as did the rest of his band. Like we all got to be pretty close, and yeah, it was a great experience. For sure.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. I know he is partial to Detroit. I mean, to Michigan people.
Yeah,
sure.
to Michigan guys. Yeah.
100%. And because Moose was telling me on the interview, as soon as he told him he was from Michigan, he was like, "Oh, well, why don't you come down and we'll talk?"
Yeah.
So I mean, he likes it, and I totally get it, man. Because you're always partial to people that come from it's why people immigrate. To America, and they hang out, with other. My wife's from the UK. When she first came here, she hung out with British people. Everybody does. It's like you're comfortable with somebody who comes from your neighborhood. It's just the way it is,
Yeah.
So, what's
and going back to what Moose was saying about Bob, of just how passionate and everything he is. Like Frankie's the same way, and he saw that in Bob, and it was like this connection they had, because that's the kind of artist that Frankie's always wanted to be. Like he's that same guy. Like he's gonna be at sound check every day, like every minute we have to check, and and he's trying to get the guys to perfect this and that and make sure the sound is perfect. And so I saw him pick a lot of that up from Bob when we were touring together, and that was really cool to see, because it was like we saw how great Bob treated his band, and Frankie was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be able to treat you guys the same way and just have an awesome band and be like, that kind of artist who's just all in and, wants to have the whole family up there and everything. So that was one thing that I didn't necessarily pick up, but I saw Frankie pick up from those tours, which I guess trickled down, and affected my life as well. So that was pretty cool.
That is nice. And like he could, look back maybe, and somebody will ask him that question one day, who influenced you or something like that, and he could say, well, I was on tour with Bob Seger, and I learned this, and it seemed like it made a big impression on the big impression on me and how I developed my career and my band and all that stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you're working on that you're excited about?
We're working on the new record right now with Frankie, and that's exciting. Is that we've taken it on as the 4-piece, as the band, just the guys on the road, and we've been developing a lot of songs just at hotels and on the bus, and we're actually going in the studio tomorrow for a couple days to work on some new tunes that we've been working up. So that's pretty exciting. That's kind of the main focus right now. It's just to get as many songs as possible that Frankie's been writing with other people, and that the band has been, writing amongst ourselves, and just trying to get the best stuff out there. But it's got a really cool vibe. There's a little more Motown, a little more soul music mixed into it that Frankie's really pumped about. So we get to come up with some pretty cool parts to fit it all together.
That's really cool also, that you're not only the touring guitarist, but you're in on the the recordings. Was that an issue with, because I'm sure your relationship with Frankie, he wanted you on there, but was that an issue with management? Did they ever give him any pushback? He's had
his the studio bands before. Rob McNally has done a lot of it. Adam Schoenfeld.
Oh my God! You're like, those are like the two top.
Yeah, they're great dudes, and we've known Rob a long time. Like he's been touring with Seger and all that, and and Rob's a great player, and I think we have kind of a similar style. So anything that Rob was doing on the records, like I absolutely loved learning it, or learning the parts to play live with Frankie. And then his producer Marshall would have me in every now and then. He would call me up just to come in and add some stuff to his song. So I didn't get to be on like every song Frankie's ever done, but they would throw me like a little bit here and there.
That's great.
Just because I've been with him so long, but this one he wants to do it as a project with all of us. So that's the goal now, and so far it seems like it's going really well. Like we've come up with some pretty cool stuff, and his producer's pretty excited about it, and as far as I know, everybody else is too. Hopefully they don't just drop us.
No, man. Man, that's great. I'm really glad you're getting to do that, because that's a great. You know, you'll learn so much as an artist and a musician from doing that. That's great. And role modeling after those two guys. I know both of those guys are really good players.
Yeah.
Really good play. In fact, Adam was down here last week, so we had lunch together. It was kind of funny. He's a very funny guy, really funny guy. So you're originally from Battle Creek, Michigan. What was your childhood like, and what's Battle Creek like?
Battle Creek, first of all, it's the cereal capital of the world.
Oh, really?
That's where all cereal is made. So we had Kellogg's there, Post, General Mills, all that stuff. So that was a pretty heavy thing in town. And then we also had a big air base there and some auto industry stuff. So that was, I don't know, nothing really too exciting about there, but just being in Michigan in general was pretty cool. Like we weren't far from Lake Michigan. And so I spent a lot of time, on the water as a kid. Just going out there. My parents always had a sailboat or something. So we had weekends, out sailing around and going to concerts and things like that. But it was a cool place. There was a lot of music around. Like, surprisingly, I don't know if anyone would link Battle Creek and music together, but we had a good group of guys that were old Motown players and singers that just stayed up there and raised families and stuff like that. And those guys,
which guys that were played on from the Wrecking Crew, or
I think not Wrecking Crew. Who am I? Man, I'm drawing a blank on some of the names here, but yeah, they would do a lot of the old recordings in Detroit, 50s, 60s, into the 70s. I'm trying to remember some of the groups that would be around. It's been a long time since I thought about it.
No, it's like Aretha Franklin and maybe
the
Jackson 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Not a lot of them would be in Battle Creek. Some of those guys are still around Detroit if they're still around. Period. But
were your folks into music? How'd you get exposed to what turned you on to music?
No, my parents were very, very musical. My dad grew up playing bass in bands, and then as he got older, he switched over to playing keys. So he really liked B3s. He's a Hammond B3 guy, through and through. He loves, Allman Brothers, stuff like that. And so he was pretty excited that I was doing music as a kid, and he would help me, find old gear and stuff like that. And as I got older, we ended up playing in some blues bands together, which was pretty fun.
You and your dad?
Yeah.
That is so, man. I mean, as a father, I could see I've done stuff with my kids, but nothing musical. But man, that must have been an awesome thing for both of you.
No, he was super. Yeah, he was always so happy when we were doing that.
Oh yeah.
And he still plays. He still plays on weekend gigs around Florida and stuff. He'll put his organ in the van and the Leslie and show up and jam with some blues bands and stuff like that.
That's really cool, man. Do you have any brothers or sisters, or?
Yeah. Older sister. She still lives in Detroit. She just had a niece about just over a year ago. So I officially became an uncle, which was kind of wild. I've never had a niece or nephew before. So now I'm just oh man, I gotta be the cool uncle. It's a lot of pressure. I'm the only one.
Wait till you have a grandchild. That's not the same feeling of over. It's really oh my God. It's weird.
That's funny. But even my niece, I'll go over to their house, and they, my sister and her husband, they both are way into music. There's always music playing in the house nonstop, and little random instruments laying around. And Ellie, my niece, will be just sit on the floor in her little playroom and just be hammering away on this old school electric keyboard, making all these sounds and stuff. And she's got some shakers and some little bongo drums and things. And she knows what to do with them. And she's only, she's 14 or 15 months old now. So it's pretty funny to see it. It's just in the blood, I guess.
That's awesome. Do either you or your sister have that guitar that started you off?
My parents have it. We still have it. My folks took it to Florida, and it's in their house, like in one of the closets, I'm sure. But I saw it last time I was down there. They always get it out, and they're like, "Hey, we still have this guitar." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
Very
like
cool.
I can't believe it's the piece. Like it's got a big crack down the side of it, and like the body separated on a road trip once. And we were driving to Atlanta. It was super hot in the car, and I pulled it out of the case, and the wood had like peeled up. So my dad glued it back together for me, and yeah, I played that thing for a long time before I got like a better guitar. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, your parents will never get rid of that. That's like really, I mean, because you've accomplished so much as a musician. That's a really nice thing to, that was the start. That was the genesis, man.
Yeah, that little one.
Did your dad work in the cereal industry or what?
He was in auto industry, so he worked for a Japanese auto company that had a big plant in Battle Creek. So yeah, he was up early and home late, just working in the plant and like working on machines and just getting super dirty and kind of taking care of anything they needed to be handled over there. So he was a really, really hard worker and very mechanical and technical, and like he was one of those guys that would fix anything. Like it didn't matter what it was, like he could do it. He could build a house, or he could fix an airplane, or like. So I picked up on a lot of that stuff from him, which I was very blessed, because like I just being an adult now and being able to actually like do stuff is like, oh man, glad I don't have to hire everyone to take care of my life for me. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was going to ask you if that's how you got into, cars and bikes, but obviously it is.
Yeah, definitely. We always had projects and growing up, and I was always helping him work on the old cars, and he had motorcycles and things like that. And yeah, it was just like, here's some tools and figure it out. Like that was what he was into, and just working as hard as possible and taking care of the family and just making sure that, the kids were growing up properly and like not getting into trouble. And he wasn't like a stern father. He was just, I don't know. He and my mom both just had this like really interesting way of bringing us up, where we made our own decisions, but somehow we always made like the right decisions just because we knew like that's what they wanted us to do. Like, so it was cool. And my mom, I didn't even mention this yet, but she's an artist. Like she was a teacher for a while. She taught art classes and humanities and things like that, but she always had an art studio and was painting and doing pottery and things like that. So that was a whole different creative aspect that was in my life as a kid that I was always around, which I'm very, very thankful for. So.
Man, you had your folks are really together. It sounds like, I think you made the right decisions because your parents allowed you to make the decisions, and they allowed you to have the consequences if you didn't make them.
Sure.
And that is not, I hate to sound like an old guy, but I am, so I can say it, and it's my show, so I can say it. I don't think that stuff is done often enough. I think people are preoccupied, especially the parents of my generation. They're so preoccupied with making sure their kids, everything's easy, making sure there's no, their parents didn't do it right, so we're going to, make sure everything's easy. But the thing is, in making everything easy, you're completely stripping any sort of like individual coping skills, decision making like you guys got to do. And when you have consequences, that's when you get to learn shit.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So everybody's so preoccupied with making it easy that we have everybody's like a nation of just like emotional quadriplegics because nobody's like really having to think. So I think, I think your parents did a great job with you guys, and you're just like a very together, guy because of that, because you've done things on your own.
Yeah, definitely. I was independent at an early age, and just, try to be respectful and good to people. And that's, I don't know, that's what keeps us going.
Moving forward.
Keeps you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that, just the simple things you said, like, hey, I'm glad I know how to do these things, so I don't have to hire everything out. I can, they're like, great. That's like self-reliance. That's a skill set. It's a coping skill. I mean, that's just basic things like that you probably take for granted, but like some of your peers will look at you and say, man, I wish I could be like Eddie.
Just feel useful, man. Like I love it. I love to feel useful.
Right. And that's what people, I try to talk to like my buddies. I'm like, man, you're taking away your child's ability, opportunity to feel successful about something. And I just refuse to do that with my kids. Hey, musically, is there like, what do you want to do more of moving forward and, over the next few years, or where you want to be, or even long term if you have a vision for that? And if you don't, that's totally cool.
No, I do. I'm always thinking about stuff like this. Like, obviously want to tour with Frankie as long as we possibly can. But as the shows slow down, like we're not going to do 200 shows a year every year for the next, decade or so.
Is that what you did this year?
Man, not this year. We're around 140, but we had the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, we were above 200 a year, which was just insane.
Crap.
And it just didn't leave a lot of time for other stuff.
Wait a minute,
but now
200 shows a year?
Yeah.
That means you're on the road 240, 250 days.
Yeah, probably, yeah. A lot of travel days and flying and going to Europe and things like that. Like we just played as much as humanly possible.
Do you think you laid down a good foundation of fan base over the last 5 or 6 years in doing that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Some places more than others, obviously. But, yeah, even right now, not having a current single out on radio, like we still draw some pretty good crowds and play some cool venues. And anytime we travel across the pond, like our presence in the UK and other parts of Europe has been growing. So, yeah, that's what we're trying to do is just, do it the old school way, play a bunch of shows and try to win the fans over by doing that.
That's awesome, man. I think about a band like Government Mule that kind of did that, and look where they are today. And I mean, of course, look at Warren; he's still playing 300 dates a year. But so what is it so you said? I'm sorry, we went off on a tangent. When I lost my mind when you said you did 200 dates a year for 6 years. What are you thinking about longer term for like where you want to be at musically?
I'd like to do more studio stuff in town. Whether at my own house here in the studio or just recording with other artists, like that's something I've been able to do just a little bit of it, and I've had a great time doing it. But it's not like a regular thing just because we haven't had much free time lately. But now that the calendar's opening up a little bit here and there, like that's something I really want to challenge myself with because it's a little bit foreign to me, and I know it's going to take some work to kind of master that style of playing and that setup. So
yeah, but having played over let's call it 13, 14, 1,500 nights in the last 7 years, to 7 to 8 years, 7 to 10 years. I think that you'll probably be in a pretty good position when you go in the studio to have a bunch of arrows in your quiver to pull out.
Yeah, definitely. I've been able to, work through all the gear and the different guitars over the years and just like have a pretty good grasp on getting some good sounds and finding appropriate parts and things like that. But that's just the other side of being a player in Nashville. It's kind of what everyone shoots for at some point. To just be home a little bit more and work on stuff like that.
Yeah, and like you said, who knows how long Frankie's, how many years and years and years. But if you got a nice stable, relationship like that, and then you could do this, it opens up some good opportunities for you as well. For diversity in your own income streams.
Yeah, and we have a tight band too. Like myself and the bass player and drummer, like they're very into finding projects that the three of us can do together with somebody else.
Oh, cool!
Because we know how to play with each other, and we've been doing it so long, and we know each other so well. It's like, well, yeah, let's just make this like a package deal. It's like we're like Frankie calls us the Wildcat Band. Like it's Frankie Ballard and the Wildcat Band. And
so wait a minute, all the bass player and the drummer are also all from Battle Creek?
No. They're from different parts, but they've been in the band just based out of Nashville for a while.
Okay.
And they're both just like extremely talented guys and good heads on their shoulders. And and they get the job done. They do it so well, and both of them just bring like their personality into the gig and their style of playing, and it's just made it really cool, and it's made it really fun to play as a group. So
that's awesome. That's really good to hear, man. Hey, let's talk gear for a few minutes. What's your go-to favorite part of the story? Yeah. What's your go-to guitar right now, and like maybe what other two guitars round out your top three?
Go-to guitar, depending on what I'm using it for, but basically I have a few that are the same ones, but one's like, home guitars and one's on the road. But I play Heritage guitars out of
cool.
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yep, I want to talk to you about those. So go ahead. So what do you have?
I have a bunch of those, but my main ones are they're called a 535, which essentially is a Gibson 335.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what Heritage brands it as, a 535. So it's like your semi-hollow body. The main one I have on the road is a custom one we designed. So it has like a Bigsby. It's black on black, like ebony fretboard and stuff.
Man, I love ebony fretboards.
Yeah, man. I dig it. Like, it's cool. It feels great. And like,
feels so good.
So that's my main go-to road one. And then I have another one at home that used to be my road one, but it's a really special one that I got from them a long time ago. And it was getting too beat up, just dragging it all over the country. So I kind of retired it from the road, but I still play it around town a lot.
Another 535?
Yeah, another 535. It's all white. It has black binding, and it's one of the first ones they ever built when they started that company back in the 80s. And it's got a cool story behind it, actually. Like I was up there with my mom or a friend or somebody. We were touring the factory because we used to just go hang out there a lot, and started to get to know the guitar makers and stuff when I was living there.
Now that's the old Gibson factory, correct?
Yeah, the old Gibson factory in Michigan, the original one. So they bought the building and all the machinery, like the old jigs that they made all the legendary guitars on, and they still just hand make all those guitars up there today. So they're pretty special guitars. They just have like a really cool history behind them, and they're made totally by hand, and the guys just know what they're doing. So they play and feel great. But anyways, we go up to this attic in the factory, and there's these dusty racks like full of these old guitars up there. And I'm like, man, what is this stuff? And he's like, oh, this is kind of like our prototype room where we kept a bunch of guitars that we tried to build, and some of them are broken and some of them were just weird designs, but we didn't want to like throw them out or anything. And I see this white 535 sitting in the rack, and the neck is like broken off of it. And it was the white with the black binding. And I was like, oh man, what is that one? They're like, oh, that's an old 535. We made it in this year, whatever. And it's the only one we ever made that was white and had the black binding, that the binding didn't shrink and like crack off of it. So we just kept it all these years up here because it stayed together. And I think it fell off a rack or something, and the headstock broke off. And I picked it up, and I was there with one of the owners and one of the guys that does the setups and stuff. I was like, man, can you guys like rebuild this for me? Like, I love it. I want this guitar so bad. Like, is there any way you can, put a new neck in it? And the guy grabbed me. He's like, oh, well, we'll see what we can do. We'll give you a call. And fast forward like a few months, the owner called me up, and he's like, Eddie, I got a guitar for you. And it was that he had put a new neck on it and set it up. Like I think he charged me for some pickups, like $300 or something like that.
Holy
for the electronics. It was pretty funny, and they got it down to Nashville, and I was just like, oh my god, like this thing is awesome. So that's been one of my favorites over the years, and I played it on tour I did all the Bob Seger gigs with it and stuff, and it was just like a super special guitar. So I still have that one. That one's like always out in the rack at home, and I just played around the house a lot.
How'd you get hooked up with Heritage?
Just by playing in Kalamazoo a lot. Well, like Kalamazoo was just outside of Battle Creek, Michigan. It was about 25, 30 minutes away. And I was like a young kid playing these blues gigs with Frankie and just some by myself. And they would come to these shows because we had some buzz about us, about just being young guitar players that were okay. And they would come in there, and like I would have just some old kind of beat up guitars and whatever. And they're like, oh, you need to be playing a Heritage guitar if you're, Kalamazoo. And I'm like, man, I'd love to, but I'm about a couple grand short on so we kept in touch, and they kept coming out, and one day they just showed up and they handed me like it's called a 137, which is basically like a Les Paul Jr. Like it has some Waller P90s in it, like an aged TV yellow lacquer finish.
Oh, I love those, man.
One, so you just play this one from now on. And I was like, what?
I mean, they just gave it to you?
Gave it to me, yeah.
Holy smokes. Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, I was pumped, and so I started playing that one a lot, and Frankie was the same. They gave him a few right off the bat, and then we started, kind of buying them here and there from them, and getting some artist pricing and things like that. And I mean that was probably 12 years ago when all that was happening. So over the last decade, like we've come up with some really cool guitars from that factory, some stuff that Frankie's designed or I've designed, or they've just had it and been like, hey, try this out, and it's been like a really cool Les Paul that they made me or something like that. So we got between the two of us, we have a pretty good collection of heritage guitars, and I don't know, I love playing them.
So let me ask you this, and if you can answer it as like unbiased as possible without ruffling feathers. So if I wanted to get a 335,
yeah,
or a 345 or 355, would you tell me no, buy the heritage?
Well, it depends. Like it's hard for me to pick up like a new Gibson these days and really like it. But if you go back, if you find like a late 60s 335 or early 70s, like, yeah, those are amazing guitars. I mean, they're hard to find, and they're going to cost you some money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would buy one of those in a minute. But that said, like those 60s ones are essentially made the same way as the heritage ones are still. So you can kind of get a brand new one. Like it might not have like all the mojo of the old one, but I definitely think they're very comparable.
Interesting.
And heritage is really cool too. Like they've never gotten on me really about playing other guitars. Like they don't really like it if I play Gibsons all the time, but
I can understand. That's not unreasonable at all, actually.
So I play a lot of Telecasters. Like I've always been a big Fender fan, so I've had a lot of Telecasters and Strats over the years too. But if I pick up a guitar and it feels right and I have a connection with it, then like, yeah, that's the one that I want to play. So it's just kind of worked. The ones I've gotten from them have been cool, and I've really enjoyed them. But yeah, I mean, I have like a Gibson Les Paul I grabbed in Chicago one day randomly that I picked up off the shelf, and I was like, wow, there's something special about this one. Like, I gotta have this guitar.
Did you get that Chicago Music Exchange?
Yeah. Oh man, I love and I hate going in that place.
I've never been there, but like I heard, that's the spot to go.
Dude, it's amazing. I mean, you can spend the day in there, and you can empty your bank account as well. But it's yeah, we get to Chicago quite a bit, and I still have a lot of friends up there, so it's yeah, that's always a stop when we're in town. So usually I just walk out there with like a pedal or something, but
that's pretty good discipline, man.
And to play it safe, I guess.
Who sells if I'm going to be in Nashville, who sells heritage guitars? Because I'm looking to get a 335, and I'd obviously be open to looking at a heritage.
Yeah, you should definitely try it out and just see what you think. Is like as an unbiased person just going in. I think Corner Music has been selling them. They kind of became a new dealer for heritage in the last year or so.
Corner Music, okay.
The last time they had a few. They've had a few heritages on the wall. So.
Okay, cool. Maybe I'll call heritage before I even come up.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to make a note of that. Hang on, so I don't forget. Yes, I might be coming up there next month. Interesting, and I do want to get a 335. Okay, so you got your two heritages. And you had a really cool story behind that white one. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh no, man, that's great.
Who are your biggest influences guitar-wise? You mentioned Zeppelin a few times. I don't know if Page.
Yeah, Zeppelin. That was at my earliest memories. Like what I remember about music was just stuff that my parents were giving me, and that was a lot of the Led Zeppelin, Eric Clapton, Bad Company. Like they were. That's just like the rock kind of aspect of it, but they were very diverse in their music. Like I would come home and my dad would have like a Yanni concert video on or something like that. So I was just mesmerized by all the piano stuff and these big orchestral arrangements. And what else were we getting?
I was really digging your dad until you mentioned Yanni. Actually, now I'm a little.
Oh man, well, man, I'll be honest, but I don't know. He's a cool guy, and like he just, I don't know. My dad was into a lot of
I think it's great
stuff.
to be into all that stuff. I was just kidding.
And even going back to like the concerts that they used to take me to, and it was like some of my earliest concerts I remember were like B.B. King, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Man, that's a band you don't hear. I don't hear anybody mentioning them. They're a great band.
Yeah, and he loved them like he loved the Keys because he was like, you know, playing organ and piano and all that stuff. Right. So there wasn't even much guitar in that slave. Like the one guy would just strum acoustic here and there, but it was essentially just
Lake,
bass, drums, and keyboards, and that was pretty cool to see.
Greg Lake was actually a really good guitar player, but that wasn't like a guitar featured band.
Yeah. Be like more drum solos than like anything. Like
what a great drummer, Carl Palmer, man.
Yeah. But so they got me into that, a lot of that rock and roll guitar mostly, and the blues stuff too. Like the Clapton kind of segued me into some of the blues stuff, along with Hendrix. Like when I was in middle school, Jimi Hendrix was like God. Like I was growing my hair out. I had like a headband. I think I did a class book report on Woodstock once where I came in and I played the Star Spangled Banner for my class and stuff.
Oh man, that is so cool. That's awesome.
We were jamming. Like I loved all that stuff. And that, surprisingly enough, that came from a teacher that my parents found. Like just, he was this guy that was out playing bars in our town. His name was Billy. And he was a awesome guitar player. And my mom was really good at like talking to these guys and be like, hey, my son plays guitar. Like, I don't want to be like Gurmy or anything, but do you think you could teach him anything? Like we'll hire you to come give some lessons or whatever. So this guy came up to our house one day and he's like smoking a cigarette in our living room and just super cool, like rock blues guy from Texas. And I'm like, who is this guy?
That's so funny.
And he sat down and he started playing some riffs. He's like, man, this is how this song goes, but this is how Jimi Hendrix would play it. And then he'd play this other cool riff. And I'm like, yeah, I want to learn how to do that, So he got me big into the Hendrix scene and some Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff and, other players like that. And that was a big turning point for me where I really wanted to be rocking and have some crazy pedals and distorted guitar and all that. So
what do you play through amp-wise?
Amp-wise, I got a pretty good collection, but on the road right now, I'm playing a 50-watt Savage head. Mm-hmm. So that's out of Savage, Minnesota. Really cool boutique amp company. Like they were making amps for like Pearl Jam and Soundgarden back in the early 90s.
Man, there's so many like interesting boutique guitar and amp companies, man, that are making great products.
Yeah. And I've always wanted one of these things. Like I saw them when I was a kid. I think it was like a Pearl Jam concert or something. Like somebody had them, and I stumbled into meeting the guy one day in Minneapolis, and we developed a relationship, and I bought an amp off him a few years after that, and I've had it a long time. And I like bringing that one out on the road. But I've had some good Morgan amps out on the road the past few years. Like I'm one of those guys that kind of like I change my rig up a lot, like a couple times a year. I don't know. It just keeps it interesting for me.
Yeah, it's like buying a new guitar.
Yeah, and they all sound great. And I'll just be like, man, I really need to bring this head out. And I'll bring like a Divided by 13 out for a few months. Or I'll bring like an old, Fender Bandmaster out for a while and be like, I'm going to take that home and bring out this other one because I think it's working better. Or, I don't know. I get really funny when it comes to gear, but it's like a revolving door. I'm sure my front of house guy loves it. But
yeah, but twice a year is not bad. Even three times a year. That's not like you're changing every week. I mean, I think it's pretty natural, for a musician to change their gear a couple of times a year.
Yeah. When it comes to it, I guess I really make them all sound pretty close to each other somehow. It just sounds like I'm playing them. So it's like, I probably just keep one amp forever out there and be fine. But
man, you gotta enjoy your business too. This is your business. It's like if you're going to use the same computer for 20 years, well, it's the same thing.
That's right.
Are you going to, if I asked you your 3 favorite albums, what would they be?
3 favorite albums. Dark Side of the Moon.
That's on mine, man.
That is one that I can listen to every day and like never get tired of it. Like I absolutely love that record.
Here's something cool. Did you ever see the documentary, The Making of Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah.
On Netflix?
Yeah, we watched that on our tour bus in Europe recently. It was like a little band get together.
Okay, so do you remember the part when he said, the song "The Lunatic Is on the Grass"? He said he wrote it about in King's College Chapel in now the name of the place. I have to look it up while I'm talking. Anyway, there's a sign that like here, this beautiful grass patch at university. And it was like, don't step on the grass. And that was the inspiration for that. And he said he wrote it while sitting on the bench there. So I'm going to get you the name of the college. It's in Cambridge. Sorry, what a brain fart. So, which is where they're going to school. Okay. When I mentioned my wife's from the UK. When I think in 93, no, in the late 90s, we went, or maybe early 2000s even, we went to Cambridge. We went, we did a whole trip of England. Cambridge was one of the cities we visited. And so I took at the time was a Walkman, except that, it wasn't, the iPhone and iPhone wasn't out yet, and the what do you call it wasn't out yet. So I had like a Walkman with a CD in it. So I took it out with my older son, who was just a few years younger than you. And we sat on the same bench where Roger Waters wrote that lyric, and we listened to the song.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was just, if you're only because of the imprint that record has had on my life, as it has with you. That's why only reason I mentioned it.
Yeah, and David, that was one I didn't get to. Like David Gilmour was another just huge influence. Like I still to this day love his guitar playing, and I was trying to play all that stuff when I was a kid. Like I bought a red Strat, and like I wanted to be David Gilmour for a while. He was like,
who doesn't?
Yeah, still is too. Like I wish I could just go hang out with him. Like,
did you see the new the Pompeii thing?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so what happened is many years ago, Floyd played in Pompeii, which is like an old outdoor abandoned theater, but they didn't have a concert. They just made a movie, a Pink Floyd movie, Pink Floyd in Pompeii. Oh, and it's an old, like, prehistoric Roman place where you'd go outdoors and see theaters and stuff. And there hasn't been a concert there since like 46 AD. Again, they didn't have a concert. They just recorded this whole video series. So Gilmour actually played Pompeii, and they had a concert. It was the first concert since like 46 AD, and they made a movie of it. And it's real. If you get a chance, check it out or buy the DVD. I saw it in the theater. It was phenomenal, man. It was just,
definitely.
It was phenomenal. But you could tell, like, one thing you could tell, the keyboard player was great, the drummer was great. It wasn't Rick Wright, and it wasn't Nick Mason. And there's something little special those guys add.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I love Wright, man. He was a very cool addition to that band.
Yeah, tremendous. I mean, the things he did on a synthesizer and a keyboard is no one's done stuff like that yet.
Yeah.
All right, so Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. Another one. I thought about this morning. Jimmy Page and the Black Crowes live at the Greek.
Yeah, it's a good one. Very good.
I love that record, and I saw that tour when I was a kid.
Really?
Like my mom took me to it, just again being like awesome mom, like trying to expose me to all the amazing music out there. Like we took a trip over to Detroit, and we saw that show at the Palaces, Auburn Hills, and I was so pumped on that stuff. And even now, I can listen to that record all day, and it just makes me feel good. Like I love it.
That's awesome. Your parents are really awesome people, man. That's great.
Yeah, I was very blessed, man. Like they're good people. They did it right. Like, and I love there's like a great mix of guitars on that record. Like when I go back and listen to it now, it's like Jimmy Page is doing his thing. Rich Robinson's on there. There's some cool slide parts mixed in with some of the old Zeppelin songs and just old random blues covers they were doing on that tour. Audley Freed,
Yeah,
another Nashville guy who I've had the pleasure of getting to spend some time with over the years here.
really.
Like I love Audley's playing.
How'd you meet him?
Man, just I met him at a place called the Family Wash in Nashville. And this was a while back. Like one of my buddies who was a tech on Bob Seger's tour is a tech for Sheryl Crow, who Audley plays for now. And he invited me out one night. He's like, "Hey man, some of my friends are doing this little jam at this little bar in East Nashville." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." And I walked in there and Audley's playing. I was like, "Oh my God, I remember that guy from like the Page and Black Crowes tour." Like he's like a legend. And he's like, "Yeah, it's Audley, man. He's always hanging around playing." Like,
That's
and he
so
does.
cool.
He gets out and plays in town so much. Like I love running into him and just like hearing him do a few songs. Man, he's just a cool player.
That's awesome. I'm a big Government Mule fan, and he's played with them often.
Oh yeah,
Quite often. Yeah.
He's got a very cool style. And so that's another record I love listening to. I love hearing all those guitar parts come together from like those three guys especially, and Chris Robinson singing. Like I've always loved the Black Crowes, and he's just got such a cool persona and like a cool style, and it's like that makes me just want to like act like him sometimes,
Yeah, I know he's very very calm, very calming. Actually, is probably the better word.
Yeah.
He's a calming, because I've seen and I've listened to a lot of Chris Robinson Brotherhood, and we actually saw them live. Yeah, he's a very calming. Their concerts are really funny because it's like, everything's about weed. Like they have, he mentions weed like a bunch of times throughout the show. He's got these incense. It was like at a smaller theater. There's incense all over the place. There's like hippie sort of, big scarves all over the place. It's just a funny vibe there.
That's wild. I haven't seen any of that stuff recently, so maybe I need to revisit.
Yeah, it's a small. He played, at least down here. It was I think the Capitol Theater in St. Pete. Nice little show, but I tell you though, it was one of those theaters though. Like you can't. There's no seats. And you're outside waiting for an hour, and then you're inside waiting for an hour. By the time they came on, man, I'm like, man, I'm done. It's 2 hours of wait, and and then I got to stand for 2 hours. I don't know. So we left after like about 45 minutes, but it was good what we saw.
Cool.
Okay, so Dark Side of the Moon live at the Greek. What would number 3 be?
Another one I was thinking about recently, a songbook by Chris Cornell. It's like a solo acoustic album. Mm-hmm. Like, have you ever heard that one?
I've heard a lot. I don't think I have that one, but I have all the electric Cornell stuff.
Yeah, like I was a huge Soundgarden fan growing up. Like as a kid, I got deep into that stuff. It was just like really cool rockin' music, and Cornell obviously was like an amazing singer. And yeah, when that acoustic album came out, it just blew my mind. It sounded so good. And it really displayed the songwriting and the arrangements that guy could come up with. And it's just like, I don't know, it's always been like a different level of musicianship with those songs he was doing. And it kind of taught me of like how one guy and one guitar can go into these rooms and like play that stuff. And you're just like, oh my God, that sounds freaking amazing. Like, so I like that one's been in my probably the last 4 cars. Like that CD has always been in the changer in there, just like ready to go. Because I love listening to it. He's
got a beautiful voice too, man, and he's like,
yeah.
Seems like he really went out of his way to connect.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of people, think of Soundgarden and it's like, heavy rock and this and that. But when you strip it down, it's him like singing and being really dynamic and hitting these high notes and these different things that are not really in his range or style. And it's like, wow, man, that's just like, that's inspirational, man. He's just really good. And he's worked so hard to get there. And it makes me want to practice my vocals more. And it makes me want to like think outside of the box when I'm coming up with guitar parts. And like, yeah, like we can put like a wild chord change in there. Like it'll work. If it doesn't work, we'll, figure something else out. But I think he definitely like pushed that stuff, and I really respect that.
Yeah, I think it's great too that you listen to things that motivate you, or at least challenge you to think outside the box, as you said, and to do different stuff, because that's how creativity, really only way creativity takes place. You by taking chances.
Yeah, that's what music's always been for me, man. It's always it's something that gets an emotional reaction out of me, or it makes me want to do this, and it's music that's all like, it could be like old punk rock or old jazz or some new Southern California hip hop guy. Like I love digging into all that stuff, man, and just seeing how I react to it and what it inspires me to like try out the next time I pick up a guitar or anything like that.
Hey, since you've had such great parents, when I ask you, what's the most important thing your mom and your dad taught you, separately?
Oh man, so let's see. My dad, I got patience from my dad, like patience and persistence. And he was a guy that it was really hard to ruffle his feathers. He was always even keel, and he was always just like focused on the goal, and do everything and just get stuff done and take care of yourself. But really he's like the most patient guy I've ever met in my life. And that's, touring all these years, like it's really easy to get frustrated and wore out and, get into arguments with people and stuff like that. And I've been lucky enough to like keep my head on straight and, always try to be the guy in the room that's positive, or, not mad for a week about something, which, it doesn't happen all the time. Everyone slips up, but
sure, of course, called being human, man.
That's definitely something I got from him, is just it's not all about you. It's look at the big picture and just be cool, like do your work, do it well, and just be a cool guy. And like, that's what he always did. So I picked that up from him.
And from your mom?
My mom's mom had the more like, what's the word I'm trying to think for her? She was just a little bit like out there. Like she would, let me know that it's like okay to be a little bit weird, or to try something that most people would think is stupid. Like she was very creative, like as an artist, and she was always pushing me to like, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Like, don't seek others' approval. Like, just be yourself and like take chances with things and try to make things beautiful. And like, that was always kind of her outlook, I think, on life, was just, colors, and pay attention to these sounds. And like when the train goes by, like that's what inspired bluesmen, and like listen to the trains. And like, she was very, I can't think of the word really, like not philosophical about stuff like that, but you know what I mean though, right? Just,
she seems like she was a real open to, unconventional thinking.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's really nice.
We didn't have to follow all the rules. Like we could kind of bend them a little bit and, don't hurt anybody, but
yeah. That sounded awesome, man. That sounds fantastic. What's your superpower, man?
Superpower? Man, that probably goes back to, no, I'm gonna rethink this real quick. like my superpower, the guys always tell me I'm like the guy that can fix anything.
Right. I believe that.
I try to apply that to, mechanical things, or just things in life. Like, I don't know. I like to be like a good ear for my buddies if they're in trouble, or, on the other side of it, if someone's car broke down, like I'm the guy that gets the call, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, can you fix it, or can you do that? And, I love figuring things out. Like if something breaks, or there's like an issue or a problem with something, like I'm going to research it and figure out how it's made and get the tools necessary. And then I'm just going to try it. And worst case, it's still going to be broken, or it's going to be repaired and, a functioning thing again. So I love getting into that. And I don't know if it's really a superpower, but
no, it is for sure.
Definitely took me out of some jams over the years. So
totally a superpower. Outside of music, you like cars, motorcycles?
Yeah. I've been doing like some vintage vintage motorcycles over the years, like old 70s Hondas and stuff like that. And I strip them all down and like every nut and bolt, rebuild the motors and fabricate, different frame parts for them, and a lot of like welding and body work, and just kind of make them my own little cool, racer style bikes. Like that's a fun outlet when you're not on the road to still be able to create something, but in a very different sense, like outside of music. Like I'll have some great music playing in the shop the whole time, which can inspire me to do this or that. But I don't know, it's fun just like making things with your bare hands and like not relying on other people and just being like, oh man, I'm going to try this and see what it looks like. And if I don't like it, I'll cut it off and start over, and it's very like just nourishing for the soul and like rewarding when it's finally done. You can be like, man, I made this, like, this is awesome. Like, so I love getting into that stuff.
That's really cool, man. Do you ride down and because Nashville's like, I mean, that's traffic city.
Yeah, it's gotten really bad over the years, and I used to ride into town a lot more, and yeah, like you said, the traffic has just gotten bad. So I still ride a lot, but I live on the kind of the outskirts of town. I'm out by Percy Priest Lake.
Where's that? North, south, east, or west?
It's east of town, like out past the airport.
Okay.
And it's cool because I'm still pretty close to the city, and I'm also close to like Countryville. So I mean, I can go 5 minutes from my house, and I'm riding through just like windy country roads, and it's really pretty, and there's nobody out there. So that's still a good place to go, and I love doing that. It's just good mentally. It's a nice escape sometimes to go out there and feel the wind a little bit.
Totally, man. So you're like about a half hour. You ever heard of Tullahoma?
Yeah.
So you're like a half hour west of Tullahoma?
Maybe a little further than that. I'm only about 15, 20 minutes from,
okay.
So
yeah, that's probably the first time in anyone's life that they've used Tullahoma as a frame of reference, but I know people there. So that's my claim to fame.
Nice.
What's it? You've been all over, man. Is there a particular place that you've traveled that really liked?
I love southern France, like the French Riviera.
Cool. What do you like about that? I've never been there. Tell me about that.
I stumbled through there. I was doing like a backpacking trip years ago, and we had a couple weeks off, and I decided I was just going to like travel through Europe by myself and finally see everything, because I'd never been able to do that before. And yeah, I ended up in like Nice and Monaco, and man, it was just like, it was so beautiful down there and like relaxed, and the people in Nice were super friendly and great food. And it wasn't like a posh vacation or anything. Like, it was just normal people in this beautiful environment. And I don't know, it's just like I get into places like that, and it instantly affects me a certain way. And that was one where I just got there, and I don't know if it was just like seeing the sea out there, or being around all those old buildings and, street musicians, or what it was. But I was just like, man, I could live here in a minute. Like, I love this place. So,
would you consider that?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, if I had a reason to live there, or if I just somehow fell into like an ungodly amount of money, like, yeah, but yeah, there would have to be, something for me to do there. I couldn't just live there and do nothing. Like, I would lose my mind.
Yeah. I guess it's like idyllic to think you could walk around the flowers like every day, but that's not practical. Yeah. After the first couple of, you need
went to do that record in that old house, and Frankie's joking around about it, because we're always talking about cool places to record, and we're like, man, we could go record somewhere in Europe, like do like one of those residencies at some old house somewhere and like make a record. And we're like, yeah, let's go to Nice, let's do it. Like,
that's where the Stones did that record. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. What is it? Exile on Main Street?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they did that down there, right? Right by Nice there.
That's cool. Very cool. Yeah, man. I smell Frankie Ballard's next studio down there.
Yeah. But we could go to New Orleans too. Like, who knows? I don't know. We're still tossing around ideas, but that would be a pretty cool experience. Yeah. Even at some point in my life, just going there with my band. Like, we haven't toured through that area yet. But that's one that I hope we can like kind of cruise through there at some point as a group, because we just love to travel together and see stuff like that. So
it's really cool that you guys are that tight. You've been together so long. It's really nice.
Oh, Yeah, man. I mean, it's family, and like, I mean, we're doing a band dinner. We had a gig last night in town, just kind of like a fun small bar kind of thing. And even tonight, it's like, okay, the drummer's hosting dinner at his house, so everyone gets their families and cruises down to Franklin to hang out. And it's like we spend a lot of time together. Like, it's a miracle we don't just fight all the time, but it's a good group of guys. So I don't know, it's inevitable.
That's good, man. I'm really happy to hear that. Hey, I'm gonna ask you 3 more questions, Eddie.
Sure.
If you could be a superhero for a week, which superhero would you be?
Oh man. I don't know, man. I don't know much about superheroes, really.
All good. Totally good, man.
I mean, I love Iron Man.
Iron Man is a badass.
Like, I think that he's just kind of got that. He's got that cool vibe, like.
And he gets good-looking girls.
Good-looking girls. He's got a bunch of great cars, cool flying suit. Like, I could get into that, man. That'd be cool.
Iron Man it is, then.
Yeah.
Second question. What's the toughest decision you ever had to make, or the hardest thing you ever had to do?
Oh, man. Probably some of just in the last few years, like, I mean, every gig will have its ups and downs and stuff. And there's been a few times where I've been on the road and I've gotten calls from other artists, like other friends of mine, that are like, hey man, we need a new guitar player. Like, you know, what's your schedule like? Are you going to stay with Frank for a while, or what are you going to do? And those have been really tough times for me. And like, especially if it's a time where like we're not sure about the future, or like there was a point where I didn't really know where Frank's career was going. We were like working super hard, but we didn't have like a ton of traction, and I'm trying to like focus on myself as a guitar player and having like a good career as a guitar player. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I'm with my best friend. Like, it seems impossible to bail on this guy. So those, and that hasn't happened too many times over the years, but there's been a handful of times where like that's come up and I've had to make the decision to stay with Frankie. And it's like, man, that just seems like that's what I have to do. Like, even though it might pay more money, or they might have some more success right now, like it's definitely been tough. But
so you believe in the machine. You believe in the machine long term, is what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad. Like, every time I make that decision, like, it's kind of scary, and I see other people get that guitar spot and they're doing great, and then, you know, but now I look back and it's like, yeah, we're doing great too, man. And I'm glad I've stuck it out. But there's definitely been some like stressful times though, where it's like, you know, I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision, and it's you know, it's weighed on me a lot, and it's hard when you're playing with your best friend like that, because I spent all these years, you know, looking out for him and helping him develop his career, and you know, I gotta take a look back sometimes and be like, man, are you doing what you really want to do, and are you making the right choices? And yeah, so I think I have, just with sticking by him, because it's been just a great ride so far. So,
well, I think, you know, you've kept staying there, and you've done it on a leap of faith. And if you are not going to stay there, you're going to do that on a leap of faith. And just the way you know it's the right thing to do, it'll come up one way or another. You'll know it's the right thing to do to leave, if that's what you ever do, you know?
Yeah.
So
we've had other guys. So,
what's that?
I was just saying, we've had other band guys that have taken other gigs over the years, and they're doing their thing now, and the band's still the same. But yeah, I don't know what this band would be like if I wasn't in it, especially for Frank. Like, that would be really tough on him and me for sure. So I think we'll just plan on sticking.
Well,
together.
It's interesting. When I ask most guys that question, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Is the decision to, in their case, leave a gig.
Yeah.
You know, because we were together a long time, same thing. And in your case, it's to stay. So It goes both ways, but that is almost, you know, that's probably 50 to 75% of the answer. And it's not like anybody talked to each other, you know. Last question, brother. Hey, let me just tell you, for whatever it's worth, you were so pleasant to deal with, like, you know, scheduling this and like,
oh man,
on Facebook, and I was really looking forward to it. Just like a very pleasant, enthusiastic young guy. So I appreciate that, and
that's what I'm always going for. So thank you.
It's working. Keep it up, man. That's all I can tell you. Last question: what's your definition of happiness?
Definition of happiness. My definition of happiness is being, feeling like you've given it your best shot and you've had some success, and you're satisfied with yourself, and you're happy with yourself. Healthy. I mean, happiness is health, and man, I'm not saying this very well.
Hey, man, it's not an easy question. It's not like, what's 3 + 5?
Yeah, I know it is a heavy question. I've been asked it before too, and
it changes. I think I think this is the kind of question you answer of for me anyway, because I always, you don't have all the answers. I would just answer it for today, what I feel happiness is, because it changes. Different stages of your life.
Yeah.
You have a family, it may be that. You have a kid, it may be that. You have a successful business, it may be that.
Sure. But I think down to the core, for me, being happy is just getting up every day, having the opportunity to do something that I love, and having the opportunity to be around people that I care about and people that care about me, and being able to live this dream that's been, not an easy thing for guys to do, or not an easy thing for me to do. And it's rewarding. And that's, I think, happiness for me right now.
Awesome, man. Hey, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. You've been really great to deal with. Is there anything you want to promote outside of everybody come see Eddie Robinson? He's a guitar player for Frankie Ballard. Check out Frankie when he was in town. Anything else you want to promote?
Man, that's probably it right now. That's the main thing we're working on. So
good.
Yeah, just keep coming to shows. We're going to give it everything we got. So I hope we can, entertain you.
Awesome. Eddie, I'd love to have you back here in a couple, 2-3 years and see what's going on with your career, because I think I think things are going to go really well for you, especially once you get finish up your studio in there. I think things will be going great.
Yeah. Look forward to that.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Once again, thank you so much, Eddie Robinson, for being so candid and sincere and chilled out and spending all the time with us. You're great, man. I appreciate it. And go to Everyone Loves Guitar. Sign up to get notified about future episodes, along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have some fun. Till next time, thank you so much for listening. Thanks again to Eddie Robinson. I'm out. Peace.
So long.
We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.